but we're finally going to answer the most commonly asked question ever, forever, ever in the history of Vice Grip Garage.
Every person is said to have two lives, and the second starts when they understand they only have one. For Derek Bieri of Vice Grip Garage, that second life came with setbacks, sacrifices, and silent heartbreaks. From working alone to having his tools stolen, Derek's journey was built on more than just horsepower. So, what happened to Derek? Why did the videos become shorter? And why did he seem to fade from our screens? Stay tuned as we uncover the emotional story behind the man who nearly lost himself chasing his dream, before the world knew his name. Before the cameras rolled and the engines roared back to life, Derek Bieri was just a young boy in minute North Dakota. The stillness of the American Midwest was where he was buried deep. There were no bright lights, city streets, rolling cameras, or YouTube subscribers waiting on his next move. There were only long stretches of frozen land, endless skies, and a young boy quietly learning to piece life together, one broken thing at a time. Minute was not the kind of town that bred fame or fortune. Instead, it shaped something far more: enduring resilience and grit. It shaped people who worked with their hands, fixed what they had, and prayed with their heads down. For Derek, childhood offered no buzzing electronics or urban comforts. Instead, it gave him the clinking of tools in a cold barn, the groan of aging machinery, and the whisper of winter winds sneaking under the doorframes. Born on May 16, 1964, he was raised in a world where nothing came easy and no one ever came to save you. If something broke, you fixed it. If you couldn't fix it, you learned to live without it. That was not just a way of life, but the only way. Even as a young boy, Derek was drawn to anything with wheels, gears, or grease. He became fascinated by the rust-covered machines in the background of his family's land, while other kids played ball or ran after one another in the fields. It was more than just fascination. It was also about survival. Vehicles were not toys or weekend projects on the farm. Instead, they were necessary equipment. They were vital. Every task depended on an engine. So, every tractor had to move. Every truck had to haul. In silence and with wide eyes, Derek watched as his family revived these lifelines. Slowly, he discovered that duct tape can save you time. He understood that oil-stained fingers were a sign of effort, not shame, and found that often the only warmth a frigid morning could provide was the soft rumbling of a running engine. Although he didn't have to be, his father wasn't talkative. The sound of each bolt they turned together was louder than any lesson. Having grown up listening to his father's instructions, Derek could hear his breath shortening as he leaned over old-fashioned engines. He watched his mother stretch meals across days, make do with little, and never once complain about the burden. They didn't speak often about hard times because there wasn't time to talk. There was only time to push through them. Without even realizing it, Derek absorbed every silent lesson. He learned to work with tired hands, make something out of nothing, and keep going even when nothing made sense. There is a silence that exists only on farmland. It is not peaceful, it is heavy. It settles deep inside your bones and lingers, even after sunset. Derek felt that silence more than most. It wrapped around him when the chores were finished. The horizon faded into dusk, and the world turned quiet. In contrast to our typical childhood experiences, no children in the neighborhood, no unexpected friend visits, and no homework or school project gatherings. Instead, there was nothing but the echo of distance, fields, machinery, and animals. It wasn't the kind of loneliness that shouted. It was the kind that sat with you, whispering questions late at night and waiting for answers that never came. That quiet ache became part of him. While other boys formed friendships in town, Derek found his companions in the machines. While others played games, he studied rusted engines. Where others sought conversation, he found communication in motion. Machines didn't judge. They didn't leave. They didn't ask questions. They simply waited. And Derek, time and time again, showed up for them. In minutes, self-reliance was not celebrated with praise. It was expected. Derek didn't grow up asking for help. He learned lessons like discovering the solution when the well stopped functioning, positioning himself beneath a stalled truck, grabbing a crowbar, and opening a slammed door. At this point, he realized that sometimes not everything needs a replacement. It just needs skilled hands to repair it. The emotional mark left by rural life was quiet but permanent. It didn't scream. It didn't demand attention, but it was always there. Derek learned to hide what hurt. He knew that emotion had no place. In the barn, he learned that grief wasn't something you shared. It was something you carried. So he hid it. He kept moving. He kept working. Kept fixing it. Because in the noise of impact wrenches and the rhythm of restoration, he could drown out the quiet sadness that always lingered just behind the trees. This may sound strange, but believe me when I say it's true. Derek Bieri did not establish Vice Grip Garage to become well-known or be listed among the wealthiest men in the world. Instead, he started it because he had something tangible to share. He grew up fixing old cars with what little he had. Looking around, he saw people online, showing fancy tools and expensive builds. But in real life, most people couldn't afford that. Derek wanted to show something different. He wanted to show how anyone could run an old car with basic tools, a little know-how, and a lot of determination. He chose Vice Grip Garage because it reflected his work style. Vice grips are not the most advanced tools, but they get the job done. That's what his builds were about. He wasn't chasing speed or perfection. He was showing how to take something broken and bring it back to life, even if the process was messy. His goal was to prove that people could do it themselves. No matter their budget or background. At first, his videos were just simple clips of him working on cars. He didn't have fancy lighting or camera angles. He focused on the build, not the show. He balanced real advice with real results. He would laugh at his mistakes, talk through his process, and teach along the way. He wasn't afraid to fail on camera. That honesty made people connect with him. It made the channel feel like a garage anyone could walk into. But behind the scenes, Derek felt the weight of being watched. As his channel grew, so did the judgment. People had opinions about how he worked, his tools, and even how he spoke. Some viewers wanted flashier edits, and others wanted perfection. Derek felt the pull to follow trends just to stay relevant. But he also knew that once he changed who he was for the views, he would lose the reason he started. So he fought to stay true. He decided not to follow what everyone else was doing. He refused to fake drama or exaggerate repairs. Kay kept showing up with grease on his hands, doing things the hard way because that's what he believed in. The pressure to entertain was real, but Derek thought teaching and truth mattered more. Vice Grip Garage became a place where mistakes were okay. Trying was enough, and knowledge was shared, not sold. Derek didn't want people just to watch him. He wanted them to learn, try, and fix something. That was his mission, and that is still what drives him today. Through it all, Derek kept his head down and his heart focused. It was never about fame. It was about giving people confidence and proving that you don't need a big shop or big money to bring something old back to life. There was a time when Derek Bieri could hardly feel his hands, not from turning wrenches or wrestling with rusted bolts, but from everything that came after: the filming, the editing, and the constant race to upload the following video. Vice Grip Garage had grown fast. With that growth came a heavy weight that few could see from the outside. Derek was no longer just a man fixing cars. He had become a one-man production crew, a business owner, a spokesperson, and a caretaker of millions of expectations. Even When he was operating on only a few hours of sleep, the camera hardly ever stopped rolling. He worked until dawn on some nights because he felt compelled to, not because he wanted to. People were waiting. Sponsors had to meet deadlines. The YouTube algorithm demanded that new content be uploaded at all times. If he slowed down, the numbers would decrease, and everything might come crashing down if the numbers fell. Bit by bit, that pressure started to wear him down. During some of his live streams, viewers observed that he appeared exhausted. Even though he joked and smiled, his eyes were different. His face began to lose the spark that had once illuminated it. During several interviews, his voice would trail off in the middle of a sentence. He would sit quietly for a moment, lost in thought, before quickly returning with a laugh and brushing it off. But those brief silences conveyed more than his words could. Derek was exhausted, both physically and spiritually. Every build had a deadline. Behind every smile was a script that he did not want to follow. The sponsors wanted polished content. Fans wanted more personal stories. The platform sought engagement, thumbnails, and trending titles. There wasn't a pause button. There was no actual break. It was just a man trying to carry the weight of an expanding empire on already strained shoulders. The hardest part was pretending it was all fine. Derek did not want to let anyone down, disappoint the fans who believed in him, or risk the sponsors who paid the bills. So he kept going, even when his body screamed for rest and his heart begged for stillness. But burnout is not silent. It shows in the way your hands shake after too many nights awake. It speaks through your tone when your passion starts to feel like pressure, and it steals your joy, replacing it with exhaustion. Derek kept filming, kept fixing, and kept pushing. But somewhere in those late nights and long drives, the cost of overcommitment became impossible to hide. The toll was real, and it left. It's marked before becoming well known on YouTube. Derek Bieri married his wife Jessica in 2008. The pair built their life together on simplicity, modesty, and hard work. Derek developed a greater passion for restoring vintage cars and sharing his knowledge online as their family grew. What started as a small YouTube channel quickly grew into a major brand. Although Vice Grip Garage gained widespread recognition among auto enthusiasts, a covert conflict occurred at home behind the rising number of subscribers and viral videos. It's never easy to raise a family and develop a public persona. After filming, editing, and interacting with an expanding online community, Derek was in various situations. His days are split between being there for his kids and pursuing content. His family was in danger of being separated from him because of the success that allowed him to provide for them. Once a private haven of calm and intimacy, his house became the setting for fans' intrigue. Through it all, Jessica was there for him, strong and grounded. However, the battle to shield their kids from the harsh scrutiny of the internet was genuine. Derek grew more and more hesitant to show his children on camera. He limited their appearances and ceased to mention their names. He understood the internet could be a double-edged sword. For every supportive fan, someone could have pushed too far, asked too much, or tried to invade what should have remained sacred. Being a father in the public eye carries a weight. Derek has spoken less about this fear, but his actions speak. Loudly, he drew a line where many influencers blur it and chose to give his children the gift of an ordinary life that is not dictated by algorithms or the chase for views. Still, the fear remains. The fear of missing bedtime stories, the fear of not being there for the small, quiet moments that never make it to the camera, and the fear of losing time with loved ones, time that slips away while you are building something for them. In many ways, Derek's most tremendous success is not just the cars he brings back to life, but the family he fiercely protects. That choice to put family above fame may never trend or go viral, but the decision matters most. From Minnesota to Tennessee. You can agree that it's never easy to change, particularly when it means bidding farewell to the starting point. Minnesota was more than just a place where Derek Bieri was born. Vice Grip Garage originated there. There he learned how to turn a wrench in sub-freezing temperatures with ice-cold hands. The early videos, the freezing starts, the junkyard runs, and the long nights spent in dark garages all took place against this backdrop. However, as life changed and the channel expanded, the time came to make an unimaginable choice. He needed to get out. The relocation to Tennessee was more than just a place to live. It was a total change in course. Derek's family packed up and left behind a state filled with milestones, memories, and miles of back roads and wrecked cars. The choice was difficult. A large amount of his collection, which included vehicles he had invested his heart and soul in, had to be sold. Vehicles that carried stories, initiatives that were never filmed. It was like ripping pages out of a diary to let them go because each one held a part of him. The weight of farewell was with them at every bend in the road to Tennessee. Making a fresh start was not glamorous. It required starting over and locating new components, personnel, and routines. There were days when the warmth of Tennessee could not replace the cold of memories left behind, and homesickness struck hard. Derek, however, persisted. He put down the tool, unpacked the boxes, and made new memories and blueprints. The surroundings were new. The garage was different, but his goal was the same. In Tennessee, Derek planted new roots. He traded in nostalgia for possibility. He brought his family along for the ride, holding on to their support like a lifeline. And though he left Minnesota behind, he carried its lessons, grit, and stories in every bolt he turned. The journey was painful, but necessary, because sometimes to grow, you have to let go of what once held you. And Derek had to obey that principle to establish and expand Vice Grip Garage. For Derek, tools are more than just objects. They are extensions of his hands, symbols of his craft, and essential characters in every story he tells in his garage. Every object has a memory, a purpose, and a place. Therefore, when a theft occurred on his property, it was more than just a loss of equipment. It was a devastating emotional blow that rocked the place he had spent so much time creating. It took place not long after Derek and his family moved to Tennessee. His new garage was still in the early stages of organization, and the move had been an enormous leap. He was unpacking and organizing everything he had brought from Minnesota, including rare auto parts and tools that had seen him through every stage of his journey and dated back decades. Something strange caught his attention. One morning, welder cable was misplaced, and several drawers in his tool chest were left open. Upon close examination, he was horrified to discover that his vintage snap-on torque wrench, several sockets, and even a brand-new Holley carburetor had been stolen. His initial thoughts were distorted by disbelief. Did it get lost during the move? Could it have been taken by accident by a friend or coworker? Reality, however, started to sink in as he went back and looked over his tool inventory. Someone had come onto his property, entered his workspace, and taken what did not belong to them. And that realization stung more than anything. Derek's reaction wasn't explosive. He did not go online to rage or accuse. Instead, he gave it straight, as he always does, sitting in front of the camera with the same calm honesty that has earned him millions of loyal viewers. He explained what had happened. His voice carried disappointment more than anger. He spoke about the stolen items and what the theft meant to him as a creator, builder, and man who deeply values integrity. His fans responded instantly. Comments flooded in from across the world. People shared their experiences, offered encouragement, and even offered to send him tools to replace the stolen ones. It was evidence of his established community based on mutual respect, comprehension, and genuine human connection. Fellow mechanics were especially empathetic. They knew that losing a torque wrench was not just losing a tool. It was losing a trusted companion in their craft. But the incident did change things. Derek tightened security, installing new locks and adding surveillance cameras. The once wide-open garage became more guarded. Though he continued to work and create, a new layer of caution was in the air. The shop echoed with energy, but beneath it all was a quiet reminder that not everyone respects your space as you do. Though the stolen items were never recovered, Derek moved forward. He stayed committed to his work, family, and viewers. He didn't let the theft break him. Instead, he used it as a lesson in resilience. In the world he lives in, where each bolt and wrench carries a piece of his story. Losing trust was the real theft, but building it back was a challenge he accepted, just like every car he brings back to life. Vice Grip Garage fans recently noticed something small but essential. Derek Bieri is posting fewer times these days. It now takes longer for the long, energizing builds that used to drop like clockwork to arrive. Although he is still active on YouTube, his presence seems more subdued. The updates are more subdued, the uploads are less frequent, and his time behind the camera is becoming more cautious. This change has not gone unnoticed for a creator who used to thrive on consistency. Some wonder if the demands of the platform have taken their toll. Derek has always made it clear that family comes first. With a wife, 3 children, and a home to manage outside of the spotlight, he may simply be pulling back to regain balance. His move to Tennessee was meant to simplify life. Yet building a homestead, managing content, running a garage, and protecting his privacy are anything but simple. Others speculate that he may be evolving. Perhaps Derek is seeking new ways to tell stories or shifting his focus to larger projects that take more time. The pressure to surpass the previous build can become unbearable after years of scurrying beneath rusted frames, reviving junkyard artifacts, and recording every step for millions of people. It's common for creators like Derek to be expected to level up, even if it means continuously burning out. Although his activity has slowed, Derek Bieri's impact hasn't faded. Vice Grip Garage remains one of YouTube's most respected and relatable automotive channels, with millions still discovering and re-watching its earlier videos. His signature mix of humor, heart, hands-on grit inspires seasoned mechanics and everyday viewers who love a good comeback story, especially when it involves an old car roaring back to life. Derek's slower pace in recent months hasn't gone unnoticed, but many fans interpret it not as a decline, but as a deliberate shift. To some, it reflects maturity. A man who has tasted success and is now learning to prioritize life over hustle, family over fame, and quality over quantity. He is no longer chasing views. He's protecting peace. The spark is still there, just tempered by experience. Still, a quiet question hovers in the background of every new upload, every missed week, and every post that feels more nostalgic than present. Is Derek simply recharging before diving into a new chapter of creativity? Or is he gently stepping away from the platform that helped make him a household name among gearheads worldwide? As fans, we watch, wonder, and wait, knowing that whatever road Derek chooses next will be authentically paved. As fans, we have watched him rescue lost cars and forgotten dreams. Now we watch and wait, wondering what ride he will take next. Will he return with more fire and fresh ideas, or is he writing the final chapter of Vice Grip Garage? What do you think will be Derek's next move? Share your wildest guesses in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.